going on, everyone? Welcome to another very exciting episode right here on the My Gardener channel. So the reason why we're in the kitchen today is because it is way too hot outside. It's September and we have heat warnings. This is unprecedented how hot it's been. So I decided, well, instead of not uploading a video, let's go inside because you all voted and said that you wanted to see an authentic pizza sauce recipe. So I figured, why not? What better time to do it than now? So we went out and harvested a big box of tomatoes. This is just a bunch of random tomatoes because there are two different types of pizza sauce. My favorite type of pizza sauce is what I'm going to make today. However, there are two that are amazing. One is called the Margarita style pizza. That is simply crushed and roasted San Marzano tomatoes, sea salt, and basil, really. So 3 ingredients. However, this is going to be more of your classic heirloom pizza sauce. This is for everything other than the Margarita style. Now, we've made Margarita pizzas using this sauce, but if you went to Italy, you'd not see that. So what we're going to be making is the alternative, which is just your classic Italian pizza sauce. Now, there are a few things that I want to clear up. No, there is not peppers in a classic Italian pizza sauce. No, there is not onions or garlic in a classic Italian pizza sauce. Neither is there thyme or parsley. Keep those out of your pizza sauce. Second, there is not vinegar in pizza sauce. You rely on a nice, juicy, acidic tomato to provide the acidity. Vinegar is overly acidic and usually will add a very sour note to the sauce. Also, there is no reason why your tomato sauce should turn brown. If your tomato sauce is turning brown, there's too much liquid and you're overboiling. This is because a classic Italian pizza sauce actually uses cornstarch. It's unbelievable. Once I discovered this tip, this has revolutionized how I made pizza sauce. The cornstarch is actually a thickener, and it requires a lot less boiling than your American style pizza sauce that looks more like, I don't know, someone didn't know what was going on, really. But there's chunks of stuff in there. Don't have chunks in your pizza sauce. There is a bunch of ingredients that are not ever included, and so we're going to keep this super simple. First, we're going to process the tomatoes, and then we're going to get into the ingredients. So let's go. Behind us, we got our juicer. That's actually my favorite way to process this many tomatoes. You also have a food mill. Food mill is what we used in the past. I'll grab that really quick so I can show you what that looks like. So this is a food mill. You put in steamed tomatoes in here, and you simply have a grate at the bottom that allows the pulp to flow through, but doesn't allow the seeds in the skin to flow through, because the seeds in the skin are bitter and they add a very bitter flavor to your pizza sauce. They also don't make it very smooth. Pizza sauce needs to be smooth. Therefore, all the ingredients we put in are going to be smooth ingredients. You have a crank here that just spins around, and there's a blade that pushes everything through. This is wonderful. It's a very great tool. However, there's an even better tool, and that is your single auger juicer. Juicers have the exact same mechanism going on, only the fact that it's automatic and it's way easier. Now, there's a third way to process tomatoes, and that's by using an actual tomato mill. They sell them, and they're attachments that usually fit on your KitchenAid mixers and things like that. And those are wonderful, but I don't like to buy things just for a single use. That's why I use my juicer, because it does the exact same. And sure, it might take a little bit longer, but it's incredible. So let's get started here. I'm gonna process up these tomatoes, and then we'll be cooking it down. It's a real simple recipe. Let's go. So now that we got all the tomatoes milled, all we're going to do is just boil. This takes a while, but what we want to do is we want to essentially remove about a quarter of the liquid before we add any cornstarch at all. This is going to at least make it thick enough to where there's a good consistency, and the amount of cornstarch that you have to add to thicken it doesn't offset the flavor. Now the cornstarch we're going to be using is non-GMO. I'd recommend getting this brand of cornstarch here. This is the Clabber Girl cornstarch, non-GMO all over it. So that is the best cornstarch to get because it's going to be just a great thickener. It's going to help to reduce the amount that you have to boil this. It's also going to increase the amount that it's going to yield, obviously, because you have to boil a lot less water off, and so you're going to get a lot more out of it. All right, so here are all the ingredients you're going to need, except for one, which is off camera, and it's our secret ingredient that really takes it to the next level. As you can tell here, all of our ingredients are dried. Now you may be wondering, why didn't you use any fresh ingredients from the garden? Well, the reason is because these fresh ingredients, you need a whole lot more of them to add the flavor that's needed. And so what often happens is it actually adds a bitterness to the sauce, especially with things like basil and garlic and onion. Now, what you want to do is you want to add the dried components, because what that also helps do is it helps absorb that moisture. If you add the fresh stuff, there's a lot of water content, meaning that you really honestly are going to be adding more water to the dish rather than taking up water. So all of these will reabsorb and help to thicken the pizza sauce even more. So what we just have here for the batch that we're making is about 1.5 tablespoons of onion powder, a same amount of garlic powder, 2.5 tablespoons of dried basil. Don't over basil your pizza sauce. I see so many people making this mistake that they think every pizza sauce and every spaghetti sauce has to have like 25-30% basil content. It's just ridiculous. It's not. You don't need that much, especially when it's dried. The flavors are more concentrated. The next thing we have here is just a little bit of coarse sea salt, and this is about a half teaspoon or so, but really salt to taste. Tomatoes have a fair amount of salt already in them, so you don't need a whole lot to make it taste great. Then we have a generous portion here, about 1 teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper. It's very, very important because it adds a real richness to the sauce. Then we have a 1/4 cup of first pressed, this is the very first cold press round of extra virgin olive oil. Get first pressed if you can, because this is actually a finishing oil. You do not add olive oil during the cooking process. It's a big mistake that I see people making, is they add these ingredients during the cooking process. It could not be a bigger mistake because you're going to cook a lot of the flavors out. So this is added right at the very end, and you're going to need a 1/4 cup of that. Then we have the only ingredient that we add during the cooking process, and that's after about 25% of the water is done, and that is our cornstarch, because this is going to actually thicken the sauce up. So we want to be able to thicken the sauce to see where we're at so it doesn't get too thick. So this is the only one that we add after about 25% of the water is gone. And then we have about a 1/4 cup of sugar. Now we might not need all of this, so sugar to taste. I always say taste your sauce, but the 1/4 cup is a pretty average starting point for the size batch that we're making. Now it comes time to the secret, which is oregano oil. This is pure oregano oil. It's actually therapeutic grade, but this is edible. And this is just a fantastic brand here. So if you go to your local health food store, generally they'll have essential oils. Find some oregano oil. It'll run you about $10 to $12. However, this goes a very, very long way because you only need about 3 to 5 drops in an entire batch. It's very potent, and it needs a carrier oil, which is why you use the olive oil as the carrier oil, because otherwise it is way too potent. And this will add a very herbaceous, deep flavor without having to have any oregano. Oregano on its own does not provide enough oregano flavor, so the essential oil is what is traditionally used in really authentic pizza sauces, and it really elevates the flavor to just a whole other level. Alright, so about 25% of the liquid has left, and how you can tell, obviously, is by looking at the level, but generally there's a look that you see when the pizza sauce is ready to have the cornstarch added, and it's where it begins to look like a really nice tomato soup consistency. You'll start to see some of the granules forming from the pulp. That kind of is a lot more evident. It looks a lot thicker. There's no foam coming up, and the bubbles get a little bit larger and have more of a plop to them rather than a small popping sound. That is that thickness that you're looking for. And before it gets too much more thick, what we want to do is we want to add our cornstarch here. Quick pro tip: just because you can downsize to a smaller container doesn't mean you should. I always prefer to keep mine in a larger pot that is wider due to the fact that there's more surface area, meaning more evaporation can occur. If you put it in a smaller pot, yes, it's cleaner and it looks more full, but the fact of the matter is there's just the same amount of pizza sauce in this pot as there will be in this pot. So it really doesn't make that much of a difference. And also, this pot is evaporating much quicker, meaning it's done much faster. And the faster it finishes, the better tasting the sauce is. The worst thing you can do is keep it on the stove for hours and hours, because all that's going to do is it's going to overcook the sauce and turn it brown and bitter. Alright, so we're ready to start adding all the other ingredients. This is really what I look for. It is a very thick tomato soup consistency now. As you can see, it still runs off the spoon with ease, but it has a very noticeably thick consistency, and the bubbles have gotten a whole lot larger than they were. Alright, so we have just turned off the heat, added all the dry ingredients, and we are ready to bottle it. Now again, this seems rather thin, but again, you have to remember you added a bunch of dry ingredients that are going to absorb moisture, as well as that cornstarch, which is going to thicken. And so this is the consistency we look for when it's ready to go. As you can see, it's still fairly fluid on the spoon. You'll notice it creates these little divots and these little peaks. When it creates peaks, that's when you want to take the sauce off. So there you go. There is a super authentic Italian pizza sauce. I really hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned something new, and I really do hope that you'll try this. Here's the finished product. As you can see, it's really beautiful. It's such a deep red color, but it doesn't have any of those brown shades. It has a sweet, rich flavor that didn't need any vinegar. It didn't need any green pepper, all that stuff that people add to their pizza sauce. It's just simple and it's delicious. Now again, I put mine into 4-ounce jars. Now they're pre-portioned out for a 10 to 12 inch pizza. This is all you need for that size pizza. And so it really helps to minimize waste, because I'm sure if you're like me and you make pizzas, you know the science experiment that happens in the back of the fridge with that half-opened thing of pizza sauce. They don't portion them well. So this 4-ounce jar is going to be perfect for just a single pizza. And all we did was throw this into a hot water bath for about 7 minutes for this size jar, and then let it cool, and now they're all sealed and ready to go, and they're going to last 5 to 7 months like this, but with how delicious these are, they probably won't even last that long. So I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you learned something new. As always, this is Luke from the My Gardener channel, reminding you to grow big or go home. Let me know in the comments box below if you tried this and the difference that it tasted compared to the other stuff that you've had, and we'll catch you all in the next episode. All right, see you later, guys.